Alright, hi, this is Jamie. I'm here with Deborah, who just asked a great question. She says hi. So she said, hey, Jamie, I feel like I have super tight hamstrings. And I said, oh, another person asking about tight hamstrings. No one understands the hamstrings. Why? So I'm going to tell you exactly why you feel tight hamstrings and why a hamstring stretch is the worst thing you can do. Here's why. Imagine this is the pelvis, okay? Low back, these are my vertebrae. It's been years since I've been to art school, but hopefully you'll understand. So now my hamstrings basically attach at the back of the pelvis. This is my pelvis, not necessarily anatomically correct. And then my hip flexors attach into sort of around the vertebrae and then sort of come through here and then attach at the front of the femur. This is the femur right here. Now here's the question. If I sit down all day, these muscles here essentially shorten, whereas this muscle here essentially lengthens. The principle you need to understand is that while I'm sitting all day, the hamstrings are stretching out while I'm sitting forward, while my low back is pulling forward. And these muscles here at the hip flexor at the front are shortening. So, if we agree that these are shortening and these are lengthening, when I stand up, essentially what happens is these muscles are shortened and these muscles are lengthened. So the pelvis simply tilts forward because it says, I'm tight. Now I can pull the low back further forward, or I can just tilt forward, and then this guy essentially now no longer feels tight because I've tilted forward and the low back has come forward, which means that this is now feeling like it's at a regular length. But actually, this is tight and this is lengthened out. So this is stretched now because the pelvis has tilted forward, and as a result, because it's on this rocker, the back of the pelvis has pulled up. So in order to alleviate the tight hip flexors, the pelvis tilts forward, which means that these hamstrings get lengthened out. Now, if I take a rubber band, you might say, that rubber band feels tight because it's stretched out. Now, is the answer to stretch out the rubber band more and really get it loose and stretched so that way it's kind of a floppy rubber band? I would say that the more you stretch this, the longer it's going to get. And the longer it gets, the less it'll be able to hold the pelvis back, which means the more it will tilt forward. In other words, if I stretch the hamstrings out, then there'll be nothing to stop the pelvis from tilting forward even more, because the hamstrings are essentially a part of what helps keeps the pelvis neutral. So what's the answer? The answer is not to stretch out the hamstrings if the hamstrings feel tight. The answer is to actually address the tightness in the hip flexor stretches, abdominal stretches, even adductor stretches, to try and help reduce the tightness here. So that way, this is incentivized, the pelvis at the front is incentivized to lengthen out and return to neutral, which would bring this back, which would mean that this hamstring would now return to a normal length and no longer feel tight. And that is how the hamstrings work.